welcome everybody. Today, in Total War Warhammer 3, we are going to be covering who to play. This is a massive game with a big, great sandbox that allows you to pick from orcs and dwarves and men and elves and all sorts of different chaos and evil beings, and lets you play all of them. It's pretty big. And so today I'm going to be covering who you should play depending on who you are. There are a lot of factions and a lot of races. So I'm going to be breaking this video into two parts. The first part is what race you should play as, and that's going to be this part right here. And my next part is going to be what faction you should play as depending on your race. So we're going to be covering all of these guys, hopefully a little bit quickly because there's a lot of them, and basically just telling you what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and what's fun about playing them. Beastmen are the number one. These guys, as the name shows, are beastmen. They're pretty tough and use a lot of sneaking skills. They like being in the forest and coming out with a whole bunch of monstrous infantry like minotaurs or beast gores. They have a couple of cool chariots in their spell roster, and generally they just want to raise the world, making blood grounds, causing dread, and are really good at hiding and picking fights when they want those fights. The Demons are Chaos is the next race. These guys have a huge roster of different types of Chaos Infantry, Calvary, lots of monsters and beasts of all different types. They've got a little bit of cool artillery from Khorne, and basically the idea is your lords are going to be different, having different strengths because they'll be dedicated to different gods. And then you have this one big guy, your legendary lord, who you get to name, which is really cool, who will be able to be customized, getting different arms and wings and legs, making him pretty cool to play as. Definitely give this playthrough a run, give this playthrough a run. They've got lots of gifts to the gods that you're able to do, which is really cool, letting you again customize what route you want to be going in determination of what god you want. The Empire. This is a really good starter campaign. They have really good infantry, both melee infantry and missile infantry. They've got good cavalry, so it's really good, helps you learn how to play the game. Spellcasters, which is fun. They've got weapons of war like tanks and some pretty serious artillery pieces. And on top of that, they have a lot of unique campaigns with Belsastar, Elsebeth, and Volkmar. Next is the High Elves. This is another great starting campaign with Tyrion. These guys are kind of like the Empire, where you have a lot of holding infantry and really big damage dealing missile units. These guys though have dragons, which makes them really fun. And these dragons will be able to swoop in, cause huge amounts of damage. Whoever didn't want a dragon in their army, and even your lords and heroes can sometimes get on dragons. Again, great missile units, great monsters, great spellcasters, and a really interesting campaign. Next is Lizardmen. Lizardmen are pretty interesting because they're a mostly melee faction, using really good sword and shieldsmen, being Saurus warriors, and then having a lot of dinosaurs that will come in and help them destroy their enemies. They don't have a lot of missiles, but they definitely make up for it in terms of toughness. Kind of like whoever didn't want a dragon, whoever didn't want a Tyrannosaurus Rex come in and help them in combat. They've got good spellcasters as well, and a lot of really fun campaigns with Tehenilin, Oxlotl, and Nakai. The Ogre Kingdoms. These guys are pretty interesting. They're actually kind of a little bit of traders or mercenaries with Golagfrag. They have really powerful individual units. Not a lot of high numbers, but man oh man do these ogres do a lot of damage. They've got some pretty interesting missile units as well, and some pretty neat monsters like giants, gorgers, which are kind of like trolls, some yetis, and some really impressive cavalry. Tomb Kings. These guys died, and then were like, nah, I didn't want to die. So they came back, and they're trying to reconquer the world that they once held under firm control. These guys have a lot of just chaff infantry, so not incredible infantry, but they cost 0 gold to recruit, which is insane. You can have just massive armies with no sweat off your back. They use massive constructs to aid them in battle, which can do a lot of damage. They've got some pretty interesting artillery, and if you play as Arkan the Black, you get access to a couple of vampire count units, which is also really fun. Next up is the vampire counts. These guys are kind of like the Tomb Kings, where they have a lot of really bad infantry, but they can resurrect these infantry units while in combat, making them insane tanks, and letting their damage dealing monsters and beasts or cavalry do the most of the damage. So really good at holding a line. They have no missile units except in their extended roster, and those missile units are very limited. So make use of speed from cavalry and monsters and beasts, and then of course have all of your great infantry. Their lords are really powerful, really important, and they have a really fun campaign. Brettonia. These are your knights of the world. They like running around with lots of cavalry. They have some pretty impressive cavalry with Royal Hippogriff Knights, Questing Knights, and even Knights of the Realm. All of these cavalry is really important in their campaign. You have a interesting campaign where you can't recruit too many peasants, otherwise your economy will suffer. And you're also trying to look for the Fey Enchantress's favor. Dark Elves. These guys have a lot of strengths of the elves, where they have good melee infantry, generally spears, and then they have some really good missile infantry, dark shards, and shades. Shades are terrifying. Dark shards are really good low tier units. They've got good cavalry with Doomfire Warlocks, and then they have monsters and beasts, of course, because why not? You have Feral Manticores, Hydras, Crabasses, and Black Dragons. You also have a Bloodwrack Shrine and some Medusas that you can bring into battle. These guys are scary. They also have an extended roster with a lot of other scary monsters when you're playing as Rakarth, who is the Beastmaster. Good spellcasters, really fun economy to play with, really fun units to play with, good campaign. Grand Cathay. These guys are dragon people. Most of their lords have the ability to turn into dragons in combat, which is pretty snazzy. They have good holding infantry and a lot of really huge damage dealing missile units with their crossbows and grenadiers. They also have a interesting set of monsters and beasts that you can get, some crow people and some different types of lions, and then of course a terracotta sentinel. They've got pretty decent artillery units and okay Calvary. Their goal in the campaign is to make sure that they secure Cathay and fend off the forces of chaos that always try to seep in. Khorne just likes to kill people. If you like to cause lots of destruction and like just kill everything, play Khorne. These guys have no missile units, because missile units are boring, you know? They want to be in the melee combat, they want to be decking it out against their enemies. Really, really strong infantry that are all melee units. You can do tons of damage with these guys. You can hold forever with Chosen of Khorne. They've got great cavalry between Skull Crushers, Blood Crushers, and even just Chaos Knights of Khorne. They've got a good array of monsters and beasts, Blood Beasts, Minotaurs, a Bloodthirster, and of course you have Skull Cannons and Blood Shrines, which are also amazing. Really fun campaign between Scotbrand, Skulltaker, and Arabal. If you're new, I would play Scarbrand or Arabal, because Skulltaker has a couple of interesting abilities in the campaign that make him slightly difficult to understand. Norska. Norska is a really interesting campaign. These guys are Vikings. These guys like to start off in the continent of Norska, and they take that continent pretty quickly and then send ships to raid into the Empire. They make a whole bunch of money sacking, looting, raiding settlements. And Wulfric's campaign is great. You get to go on a whole bunch of monster hunts, which allows you to gain some really cool monsters in an extended roster. And then, of course, your Norska. Who doesn't like to be a Viking once in a while? Scaven. Scaven are Ratmen, and one of my favorite races to play. They have very, very garbage infantry that has a very low leadership and will be running away constantly. So if you don't like to give your units a ton of commands, maybe don't play as these guys. But they're really good at creating ambushes and flanking their enemies. They have some really good missile units with weapons teams from Clan Scryer and things like Plague Claw catapults, which every time I play as Scaven, I'm always amazed with how much damage Plague Claw catapults will do. Poison Wing Globadiers, they're just insane little rat men that will do anything to win, pretty much. Tzeentch, this is our first Chaos faction that's specific. Tzeentch is a magic and change sort of guys. So if you like things just being super chaotic and not knowing what's going to happen, play as Tzeentch, because these guys don't know their own plan. And somehow it just works out. Sometimes it doesn't, though. These guys have a lot of pretty good missile infantry and some pretty decent melee infantry units. They've got some interesting monsters with Lords of Change and Vortex Beasts. They've got Flamers of Tzeentch, which are really interesting units, and a pretty good spellcasting roster, of course. The Changeling is a really fun campaign where you get to have your legendary lord take the forms of different legendary lords in combat, doing a whole bunch of fancy stuff there. The Warriors of Chaos is another one of my favorite races, and these guys basically take the power of all the different Chaos gods and also the power of corrupted people and turns it into a massive unit roster. These guys have a really interesting mechanic that I love so much, where you can take Marauders, your worst type of infantry, and turn them into exalted, just great champions. Turning them into Chosen or turning them into Knights. They have an amazing spell roster with lots of different types of ways to go when you're building an army, dedicating certain units to certain gods or keeping them undivided, the world is yours to conquer. On top of that, they have 4 different lords, each specializing in one different chaos god, being Slanesh, Nurgle, Khorne, and Tzeentch. Next is the Chaos Dwarves. These guys are really interesting. They have a very fun economy that you have to balance, getting raw materials, gold, and armaments. Armaments to let you buy more units, and then, of course, raw materials to turn into armaments, and gold to make the places to both mine raw materials and turn things into armaments. They have a really good a really good unit roster with solid holding infantry, some pretty good garbage infantry. You've got alright Calvary, a couple of fancy monsters and beasts. You've got a lot of war machines that are really fun to play with, one of the most broken artillery units in the game, and a lot of really satisfying damage dealing ranged units. You also get pretty good spell list. This is a campaign that I would definitely recommend you play. Dwarves. Dwarves is a really good beginner's campaign because their economy is one of the best. Dwarven economy is great. They have so many just trade opportunities that you can use. Their buildings are great for making money, and they're just making money the entire campaign. They have a certain fighting style that you'll have to get used to if you play as them, but it's pretty fun. You basically sit down, hold forever, and bomb everyone until they're dead. You have really strong holding infantry like iron breakers and hammerers that will hold until they die. Then you have flying war machines like gyrocopters, basically helicopters, but put a machine gun or a flamethrower on it and then have a couple of bombs to throw. And then you have your missile units. Your missile units are generally your damage dealers with lots of gunpowder, lots of fire, and then your artillery is some of the best in the game with flame cannons and organ guns. Dwarves are really fun. You're kind of slow, which is fine. But man, oh man, do you do some pretty fun stuff. Greenskins. This is a strategy game. You don't really need a strategy when you play as Greenskins. As long as you're killing people, you're doing pretty good. Greenskins have a really fun roster to play as. If you get in a greenskin mine where you're like, yeah, we're gonna go get these gets. Really fun to play as them as well. They've got really strong melee infantry, some pretty decent missile units, and a lot of fun monsters and beasts to play with. You've got trolls, you've got weirvins, you've got giants, and you've got these massive squigs and spiders that basically you can do anything you want with them. You also have a couple of really fun chariots with snotling pump wagons. You've got some pretty decent artillery units and pretty fun cavalry. Also, you have a race mechanic called a WA, which lets you get massive armies for no cost whatsoever, and you basically try to take one settlement, and it's so much fun. Really fun campaign. If you like a lot of chaos, play as the Greenskins. Kizlev is a pretty interesting faction. They've got certain goals with every single lord, so I'm going to have to explain that when I explain the Kizlev lords specifically. But generally, they're infantry, or they are an infantry-based army with most of their people being hybrid units. So they're good both in melee combat and out of melee combat, meaning you can keep your army shooting and in melee, doesn't matter what, they're going to be doing great. You've got a couple of really fun monsters and beasts with snow leopards, things in the woods, some really scary polar bears, and you can even ride the polar bears if you want to with war bear riders. So good Calvary here. Pretty decent spellcasters. They're a pretty fun campaign, and definitely, if you want to do a first-time campaign, you could do them. Nurgle. Although they may look a little bit ugly, these guys just want to give you big hugs. They want to spread their plagues across the world, and they don't really care who gets them. In fact, they'll give it to themselves sometimes, and that'll help you both on the campaign and in combats. You're basically brewing different types of plagues, spreading them across the world, and doing a whole bunch of fun stuff like that. They use healing magic to make their already super tanky units even more tanky, and their idea is, when you die from the plague, we win. Slaanesh is a very interesting faction, because they will, they try to flank you a lot. So most of their units have the ability Devastating Flanker, and their units are a lot faster than others. So their idea is, we'll hold you in melee with a couple of units, make you look one way while we're hitting you in another way. They're really fun with their spellcasters. They've got good spellcasters, an interesting special lore of magic, and some pretty fun campaign mechanics where you can seduce units, making the enemy units join your army temporarily. Then you have the Vampire Coast. I've never played as the Vampire Coast, but I've seen a lot of things that other people have played with them, and I've fought them countless times. Vampire Coast, I would imagine, would be a really fun campaign. You've got, starting off with some pretty bad melee units, but again, just like the vampire counts, you have lords that can just resurrect them, so they stand up and fight again, and then you have some really good missile infantry that can do the most of your damage, while that infantry holds forever and then just stands back up to hold again. You've got some fun monsters and beasts. Animated hulks are fun, Morghuls are terrifying, Rotten Prometheans are fun, a Terrorgeist is amazing, Leviathans are fun, and then you have corpses that, when they hit melee combat, they don't fight, they just explode. You've got some pretty cool constructs with the Necrofex Colossus and Rotten Prometheans but having guns, and then of course you have some pretty decent siege artillery. And our final race is the Wood Elves. The Wood Elves are a pretty much isolationist race. Their main goal when you play as Orion and Duruthu is to secure Athel-Loren, which is a small spot right where that Talzin marker is, and they want to make sure that nothing comes inside of their forest, and occasionally they'll go outside, claim a couple of territories, sack, raise, do whatever they need to, but their primary objective is to keep the forest safe and kill all of the chaos around it. Draika is a little bit different. She can go off and claim a couple other places. Seeing as all climates are suitable for her, she can conquer the entire world without any troubles. She likes a lot of trees, so dryads. Their unit roster is pretty fun. You've got some nice damage dealing melee units and a lot of really fancy missile infantry. You've got really good cavalry, really good monsters and beasts, more dragons, more just things you don't even know what they are, but they're so crazy. Really fun campaign with Draika. Really fun if you like to not expand a whole bunch, but have really, really powerful armies. Really fun campaign to play. Definitely give these guys a playthrough. It's kind of iffy though. And that's it. That's all of the races. I hope you heard one that's like, oh, I really want to play as these guys, or oh, I think that those guys look cool and I want to try them out. Definitely just try it. Like, play 10 turns in And if you like how that campaign is going, maybe just either continue that or play as another lord. Most of these factions have up to 6 lords, sometimes a little bit more than 6 lords, and they're really fun to play. I hope this video helped you guys, and I will see you later.